Comics Coast to Coast is brought to you by patrons like you. If you'd like to help the show out, head on over to patreon.com/comicsc2c and show us a little bit of your love. Your sweet, sweet love. I mean, like $1 worth of love. And we'll take that love and hug it and squeeze it and make it do podcast things that you'll enjoy. So come on, see what happens.
This is Comics Coast to Coast.
Hi, everybody. This is Brian Dunaway, and you're listening to Comics Coast to Coast, episode 309. Artist Alley, DragonCon 2017. Say what? All right, with us tonight is Joel Duggan of Forge Publishing. Joel?
That's me. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I would have been doing better this past week in my visit to DragonCon if you had been there.
Well, it's far. Everything from Nova Scotia is far.
Apparently, Nova Scotia is not close, nowhere near close to Atlanta. Nope. Also, me in Atlanta in September? No, not with whatever the humidity is probably going to be. Not happening. The Utah desert was hot enough. I think that was good enough for me. That's good enough for you? You got it? That's all I need? Just a little bit of height and a little bit of... All right,
I am close to Boston, though.
Oh, who's in Boston? Wait, let's introduce Matthew Ducharme of Matt the Wad. Matt?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, I also missed you. I missed your fuzzy face.
Well, that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. How's that?
Ooh, absolutely.
Is Matt's camera out of focus again?
Who's?
Matt's
yes.
Camera. Is it out of focus?
It's out of focus. It's always out of focus. He's all fuzzy.
My camera out of focus?
Yeah. You get it? He was making a joke. It's all the jokes. People are turning off left and right, but we're here at Comics Coast to Coast to talk about Artist Alley.
Listenership down to 2.
And
Brian's fiance and my mom.
All right. So, yeah, I did. I went to the DragonCon. If you're not familiar with DragonCon, I've talked about it many times on this show. It is a sci-fi fantasy convention that takes place down in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. Usually happens over the Labor Day weekend. And there is around attendance, would say around 80,000 people. So there's a lot of people that come. A lot of people that come to visit the DragonCon.
A lot of sweaty nerds in one spot.
A lot of sweaty nerds. Now, personally, my role at DragonCon over the past 5 or 6 years has been to direct the podcast track. So I'm of two minds. I'm an artist and podcaster. So I didn't get to visit Artist Alley but one time because I had many other duties to perform. But when I did go to Artist Alley, I saw a lot of our good old friends. Like who, you say? Well, the first person I ran to was Andy Runton of Owly, and we talked to Andy last on episode 106. I could have swore we had talked to Andy since then. Am I wrong?
I think you're wrong. I've not talked to Andy before, but I didn't start on the show until episode 115.
Right.
I do remember Owly.
Yes. So that was way back in 106. So we need to get Andy back on the show. Also, I told Andy, I said, hey, man, I want to head out earlier this next year and head up to Charlotte in North Carolina for Heroes Con. So I've already started making arrangements to head up there. In my personal goals this year, I'm going to try to get my comic back on track as well as continue to do podcasting. But I would like to get my comics back on track and get to some of these comic conventions, because every time I go to DragonCon and I'm in the podcast track and I'm just over there all day, 12, 16 hours a day, I'm constantly thinking, man, I wish I was over in Artist Alley right now, talking to my friends and hanging out. Not that I don't have podcast friends; I have plenty of those, but I miss my art friends who are over on the Artist Alley. Go to andyrunton.com. If you have not seen Owly, you should. He is still doing his Owly, and he's the man. Love Andy. He's just the greatest. I don't know how to explain to you how great he is. You have to actually meet Andy Runton to understand what a pleasant experience it is. But I did miss one thing that I really wanted to go to, and I almost made it, but I didn't quite. The Big Owly Hootenanny on Sunday at 10 a.m. this past Sunday was at the Westin. He had Jenny Law and Andy were doing an amazing hour of fun. They sang, they crafted, and they listened to an Owly story and learned how to draw like a cartoonist. And you didn't even have to be a kid to join them. Just young at heart. Aren't you jealous now? Wish you had went.
That's a really cool event.
It is a cool event. Also saw Mike Gordon, talk to him about Tiki Zombie back in episode 129. He's still embracing the Tiki lifestyle. They were still had their booth out there, and it was still full of Tikis and zombies. And I love Mike. He's a great kind of guy as well.
I do remember Tiki Zombie. That's
yes.
a fun comic. Yeah.
How could you forget that? And the person that I was really wanting to see, well, there's actually two more that I really wanted to see, but I did not actually get a chance to talk to. When I came by, they were talking to someone, and I just didn't get a chance to do it. Travis Hansen, the Bean. Remember that guy? Episode 163? Yeah, beanleafpress.com. Check it that. He just had a Kickstarter project this past January called Life of the Party, The Realities of an RPGer. It was a comic book capturing with humor some of your best RPG, gaming, or geek moments at the table of your party. It's all about the quest. And they funded. They did indeed fund for that project. We need to get him on and talk to him about how that went as well. It must have went well because, like I said, he was a very, very busy. He was truly the life of the party. And they did it. And they only needed, how many? They only needed $88,000 to do it. What? That's right.
Wow.
I think they were their goal was 7,000. They did 88,000. That's right.
Well, I would call that a resounding success.
They did stuff. They did stuff, and they hit the goal pretty early on, I think. And I'm very excited for this. I think you can still get the product. You can get the book still, I believe. Let's see. And they are actually delivering, it looks like, on some of their September 2017 was their estimated delivery for some of this stuff. Anywhere in the world. Joel knows how that goes.
Yes, I do.
Right. And so they're very happy for those guys over there. That's great. So happy for them. Also, Laura Ennis. I think that's how he said it.
Yes.
The Dreamer. Episode 189, she was there. Also did not get a chance to talk to her, but because she was super busy. Now, she's the creator of the Dreamer comic, but she's also, I think she started doing this after we talked to her. She's doing the very popular Winona Earp series. She's the artist for that. What?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That definitely happened after we talked to her. Have we talked to her more than once?
I don't think so. We need to pick up a second watching of that. And on her Twitter, she claims to be a podcaster, road tripper, and history buff, which leads right into the next person who I didn't get to talk to. Saul was super busy. Chris Schweitzer of Krogan Adventures. Remember that guy?
Mm-hmm.
Episode 242. Eisner Award winner. And he's been doing a lot lately for graphic novels. So he had a lot of comic stuff he was doing about the time he was wrapping. He was wrapping up most of the comic strip stuff he was doing back when we interviewed him, and he was moving into doing more of this book things. He's having a pretty good, decent success on Patreon. And if you want to check that out, patreon.com, Chris Schweitzer. There's links in the show notes for that. I always love talking to the guy. He has a little more facial hair now, believe it or not. Can you believe it? Because he was pretty hairy last time.
He's always got such a unique look, right?
Right. Was that
so
Matt?
fun.
I said, well, that is the thing lately, of course.
Right.
I follow Chris on. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Saying, next decade we're going to be looking back at this one like we looked back at the 70s.
Right.
Like, oh, look at all the hair.
Remember facial hair?
Yeah.
It was the worst.
The beard phenomenon.
We all had cooties.
I follow Chris on Instagram, and he's been posting a lot lately as the summer has been cooling down. He has been working in his open air studio. He's got like a garage type studio, and he's been posting pictures where he's just kind of like sitting inside but outside in fresh air while he works. And it's a brilliant idea.
Right. It is a brilliant idea. I like the idea of an open air area. I hate art in the outside, but if it's kind of sort of closed in, but there's still open air, I'm down with that.
Oh yeah, like he's got one wall open, but everything else is completely. I mean, it's got all the things that a studio should and would have. Computer, drawing table, ink, but all that kind of stuff going on. But it honestly just looks like a garage door that's just opened up, right?
Right.
But it's I've done it before, where I've taken the email out on the balcony here in my apartment and then work outside, and it changes your focus. I unfortunately. All of my stuff is so digital lately. Unless I'm just sketching in a sketchbook, I don't sketch outside very much anymore. But I used to. I used to take my sketchbook to the public gardens all the time.
Right. I'm not a big outdoorsy art kind of guy. Everyone's always saying, "Oh yeah, you gotta sketch outside, paint outside." Paint seems like the worst. But
podcaster, video gamer, inside cartoonist, fresh air is just like kryptonite to you anyway.
I'm not a fan. Yeah. I love going outside, but when I'm outside, I'm walking and taking pictures. Mm-hmm. But my indoor activities involve, podcasting, artwork, drawing, that kind of stuff, sculpting. I like going out and taking photos and, getting up close to the trees and everything. I'm a toucher. Are you guys a toucher when you go outside? Are you like touching everything and feeling textures? And is that, am I crazy? Do I have problems?
Not me. I don't touch a lot of stuff when I'm on the wild.
I'm more of a watcher.
Yep.
Like I'll lay on the ground and even out in my yard, I'll just lay down on my back, which is a terrible idea if you live in South Carolina because we have fire ants like nobody's business. But I'll go out there and I'll lay around the ground.
Why is Dad dancing in the backyard?
It's true story. I do that. I'll lay in the yard and I'll see the ants, and it's always amazing with ants because ants kind of like feel their way around. So they like send out in all directions, and then once one finds a good path, they pass that back and they all get in a line and they go. Well, let me tell you what happens if you smush an ant. Okay, let's say there's an ant approaching you, and you decide you're going to smush it. Well, that just gets them all a-coming. They just think this must be the place to be. There's some action going on over here. Somebody just died. Let's go check it out. And next thing you'll know, there'll be ants all over you. So if you see an ant, just, kind of gently say, move along. Move along. There's nothing here. There's nothing at all. Keep going. I have no watermelon. I've seen the commercials. I've seen the cartoons that I have no watermelon, no none of those picnic things. Get out of here. Go on. But
this
not
is
outdoors.
Not the picnic you're looking for.
No, but Chris Schweitzer, good job. I wish I could do that. I wish I could open stuff open and no, I don't. I hate outside. Who am I kidding? I nearly OD on DEET when I go outside. I just spray it all over. All right.
His sketches from Dragon Con were awesome.
There are so many. All of them did great stuff. All of them draw when they're there. I love my family loves Andy because he's such a great guy, and we always buy a couple of books and stuff from him, and he always just goes above and beyond just sketching. I mean, he'll take your book and he'll sit there and talk to you while he sketches in the front of he doesn't just sign the front of the book. He draws like an alley in the front of the book and write little stuff. And it's not like just a little cheesy quick alley either. He's there drawing backgrounds and stuff. And I'm like, cool, man, don't waste all your time doing that on us. Do that for the real people. But that's not who he is. He's always great about that. Also, let's see. I saw a few people I wanted to talk to. And I did get a chance to talk to how do you say Lea? Is it Lee? Leah, is that right? Leah. Yeah. Leah Hernandez. I talked to this great artist. She's currently working on the Teen Titans Go comic book, and she also does the Garlics and Bunnies. And I really like her work. Do check her out. She is on in the show notes, and she was a very pleasant artist to talk to, and was very engaging with the fans. But I would love to get her on the show. And I asked her, I said, hey, would you like to be on our show? And she's like, sure, why not? Whatever, just go away. No, I'm just kidding. She was super nice about it. She was like, I said, hey, yeah, I'm Brian Dunaway with Comics Coast to Coast. And, we talked for a few minutes and says, are you wanting to ask me to be on the show? And I'm like, yeah.
Do you have you run into anybody at Dragon Con where you're like, hey, I'm Brian Dunaway from Comics Coast to Coast, and they go, right. Oh my God, it's like, do they actually recognize you, or does that
usually?
Because a lot of people that listen to the show are probably artists, right?
Right. Usually I don't get like a fanboy moment or anything, but I do get, oh yeah, I listen to your show. I really like your show.
Oh, do you have run into some people that listen to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
And they almost always have at least heard of us. Most times people have at least heard of us. It may not listen, but at least they go, oh yeah, I know that show.
The rumors are not true, people.
Right.
Not true.
And I met an artist outside of Artist Alley, actually in the podcast track. Dedrin Sneed handed me his card. He had asked a few questions while I was in the podcast track. He's looking at doing some podcasting, but he just did a graphic novel, or at least a comic book, and I checked this out earlier, and it's called Sorum and Spear. That's it, Sorum and Spear. And he was a really, really nice individual that I really enjoyed meeting. Thank you for that, and I wouldn't mind talking to him sometime in the future. Really nice work. Really good-looking work. I didn't mention who I met while I was at Dragon Con yet, did I? Guess who I met while I was at Dragon Con? No. Don't guess at once. Do you guys know?
I was like, me and Matt are sitting there going like, is Matt going to guess, or is Joel going to guess? Who's going to guess?
Who's going to guess who I met at Dragon Con?
I know only because I cheated and looked at the show.
Oh, well, then you don't count then. Okay, so I met Stan Lee. Sort of.
What?
Yeah, sort of. I got a picture of me and Stan Lee. I've got a picture. I'm showing it in the video. By the way, we're doing video now. If you go to YouTube, look for Brian Dunaway. That's me. I've been posting these in a playlist called Comics Coast to Coast. And there's a video here, and there's pictures of me. And if you follow me on Twitter, the Brian Dunaway, you'll also see that. A friend, okay, the relationship is kind of complicated, but a friend of my friend, who's now my friend, John's my friend now, because John purchased a deluxe package from Stan Lee Collectibles to meet Stan Lee. So he got some things. So he got this package where he got a T-shirt, he got a print, he got an autograph session, a photograph session, and some other things too. But he could have up to 4 people go with him to the photo session with Stan Lee. And he had actually asked his father-in-law, who is one of my best friends, if he wanted to go, and he was like, maybe you ask Brian. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go touch Stan Lee. Absolutely, not even a question. Wouldn't you guys go touch Stan Lee?
We're back to the touching versus the looking.
I mean, Joel, if you had an opportunity to go touch Stan Lee, would you go touch Stan Lee? I mean, come on.
If it involved shaking hands or a high five, yes.
Right.
You know what's funny is
the dark path that Brian leads.
Right. What was that, Matt?
I immediately pictured Brian hauling through a crowd of people and then diving over them, football player style, while screaming, "Excelsior!"
Oh, I wish I was that brave when it comes to media. Hey, look, I talk to a lot of well-known artists all the time. So, I've had my opportunities to meet people who, I admire, and people who have a lot of exposure, but Stan Lee's a hero. I mean, he's from my childhood, how do you reconcile that? Okay, so I'm totally freaking out about this. And I'm like, oh, we're gonna meet Stan Lee, but to what level are we gonna meet Stan Lee? Am I gonna get to, ask him questions? Are we having lunch with Stan Lee? I saw that somebody was doing that. If we got lunch with Stan Lee, I'd freak. What would I eat? Nothing. I would throw up right there. It'd be the worst idea ever. But what I actually got was a photo opportunity with Stan Lee, and I didn't know how that was going to go. I just figured we'd go up to the table. And we'd walk around like they do so often, and we'd get a photo. But it was a little bit different than that. I've never been to one of these. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like a mass production of photo shoot. So we all got into these lines, and we had like 3 groups of people. So it was about 50 people all together. And we lined up in these little corrals where we had to like stand in between these little white lines, and we all had to be very quiet. No, we didn't have to be quiet, but we did. And we had to wait for like 10 minutes or so. Then they moved us into the second waiting room where there was a shorter line, and we stayed there for a while. And then behind all these curtains, like there's these rows and rows of curtains, they brought us back behind there. And while this is going on, there's a whole other like 100 people doing the same thing, but seeing other people like William Shatner. And we're all separated. We can't see William Shatner. We can't see Stan Lee. We can't see, whoever else is back there. I don't know who's all back there, but there's some famous people, I'm sure. So we go to the first waiting room, the second waiting room, then we get behind the curtain. At that point in time, they're yelling at us, "Put your backpacks down." I was like, "No, I got my camera. Am I supposed to not do this?" It's like, "Put your camera down." I was like, okay, don't yell at me, man. And so at that point, you get to where you can see Stan Lee, and he's sitting with his legs crossed and his hands on his knees, looking as uncomfortable as any Stan Lee could possibly look. And we just slowly each come through, and you get like 2 seconds, and they take your picture, and then you leave. That's it. You walk up, they take you. It's like visiting Santa or something. It's like Santa Lee. So you walk up, you stand, you get close to him as you can, and he's like, he's got his hand. He's trying not to touch anyone, right? So he's like all balled up, and they just kind of shuttle you through. So the whole experience, actually seeing Stan Lee, lasted for about 5 seconds. However, I will say this: he looked up, looked me straight in the eyes, and said hello. And I was like, "Hello, Stan Lee." Click, walk away, and that was it. And it was just a little touch, of the classic, the legend, the man, Stan Lee, and it was great. I wish I could have had more. Also, can I say this? It's very sad to see your hero being treated like Santa Claus. I didn't care for that.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's super fun for him.
Right. I don't know. Maybe, I felt kind of bad, but also was like, I kind of understand it. All these people want to see you. Thousands and thousands of people want to see you, and you can't meet everybody. So you got to find some kind of middle ground. Everybody wants to take their picture with you. So how do you do it? Well, if you're going to get it done, you got to get it done, right? And so he did. And so I appreciate it. I thank him for doing it. I just hope it was less uncomfortable than it looked, because it looked terribly uncomfortable. Good old Stan Lee. Now, Stan Lee recently, earlier this year, he announced he wasn't going to do any more cons. And this might have been the reason why there was such a frenzy for people to get back and see him. But then he lost his wife about 3 or 4 months ago. And I don't know if that changed his situation, where maybe he doesn't want to be at home. I'm not speaking for the man. I don't know his situation. I just know
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you lose a spouse, I'm sure it changes. Changes everything.
I knew that changes everything. I just didn't realize that his wife had died. Jeez.
Right. I didn't either until I got to the con. And I'm like,
it was very recent. I remember hearing about it. I think it was only a few months ago.
It's very recent, very. And but he looked good. He looked healthy. He looked like he was still doing his thing. I think he's wearing a members only jacket in that picture. I'm not 100% sure. If it's not a members only jacket, it sure looks like one. It's one of those beige ones. He had a tan members only jacket and some tan pants. It was awesome. Check it out. Stan
How
Lee.
old would he be now?
Older than me.
He's got to be in his 90s, isn't he?
You would think so, right? I don't want to say 90s because he might be 89. Sometimes I get that wrong.
Jeez, he's 94, Brian.
94. Jeez, I could have knocked him over and broke him.
It's a good thing you didn't breathe too heavy. You were holding your breath the whole time, right?
All I got to say, for 94, that man looks good. He looks good for 94.
I would say that a lifetime of doing what you love probably errs on the side of a youthful senior.
Right. Yeah. Well, I had all kinds of questions lined up for him, and I didn't get any of them, so that's good.
I was saying, when he looked up and you're telling that story about Stan Lee looked up at me, my brain was like, and then he said, "You're Brian Dunaway from Comics Coast to Coast."
Right. I wish. No, I don't. I would probably have fainted at that point. It's like, forget it. I'm out.
Wait, what? I mean, that would be a really good. I mean, we're talking about a really good prank to pull on someone. Someone that knows you talks to whoever's handling Stan Lee and says, "Hey, look, it's my buddy's birthday."
Right.
When he goes up to meet Stan Lee, we know Stan Lee's not talking to many people. But when my friend Brian goes up there, could you just ask Stan to totally pretend like he knows who he is?
Right. We're just going to go ahead and give Brian a heart attack. No, I can't. I'm glad not. I'm actually glad I didn't get a chance to ask any real questions because I had every question on my head thinking, what way could I ask a unique question that might garner some kind of new information that he hasn't already put in a book or said in an interview or something. And I couldn't think of anything. So hello, Brian, or just hello was really
when you talk to people like that have been interviewed, 6 ways and sideways. I mean, I feel like you have to come in with the non sequiturs like, so what's your favorite breakfast cereal?
Right.
Lead in with something like, and he was like, well, actually, he probably has an answer for that.
Well, I've been diabetic for 30 years, so take it.
All brand, all the time. Right.
I have a general con question.
Yes, ask away.
Was it like super crowded? Were you able to walk around easily? Like, how big of space was it in?
Gosh, it's terrible. It's the worst experience you could ever have. It is. No, I'm just kidding. It is really, really crowded. 80,000 plus people in essentially 3 hotels, which are really big hotels, but 80,000 people. This year seemed a little more crowded than in years past, and I mean by a lot. So I haven't seen the actual final numbers. They usually announce pre-sales, and that's what the numbers are going on. But then they also sell day passes. So every day they sell Friday passes on Friday and Saturday and so forth. I really think there was a lot more people there this year. I don't know what was going on, but there were times when I was just at a complete standstill, where I couldn't even get to where I was trying to go. And that usually only happens maybe once or twice. It was happening a lot throughout the con.
The main reason I asked is because I went to the Boston Comic-Con was fairly recent, only I think about a month ago or something like that. And I went with my nephews, and it was crazy packed.
Right.
And it was in a big, big space.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was just like, man, because I think even less than 10 years ago, I went to it, and it was in one of these little, they have the hotels have those little meeting halls or something.
Right.
And it was in one of those, and there was maybe only a few hundred people, and suddenly it's crazy huge and packed. So I was wondering if that's a phenomenon that's been going on in other cons as well.
I think it is. I'd be interested in seeing the charts, the statistics on the increase, because I was even shocked because I was looking at Heroes Con. And I was thinking, oh, yeah, I remember that. It's been maybe 8 years, maybe not quite that long, 7 years maybe since I've been to Heroes Con. And I remember it being fairly crowded, but not crazy crowded. But then last year they had 40,000 attendees. I'm like, holy crap. That's either increased or I'm not estimating something right, because that is a lot of people. Because that's just in one big building. At least it was. It may have expanded since then, but yeah, it's not for the faint at heart. If you don't like crowds, oh man, you're not gonna have a good time at the con.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I can tell you, we were shuffling
Right.
You know,
Exactly what you had to do.
You're doing the penguin waddle.
Yeah.
Thing, you know,
everywhere. And I don't know how people with costumes and stuff, which there is a large percentage of congoers who dress up at Dragon Con. And I don't know how they even manage. Lots of them have handlers who actually walk them around so they can kind of get through the crowds and stuff. But and they get mobbed just like a celebrity because everybody wants to take their picture with them. It's like, oh, let me take a picture with you. One of the most common costumes I saw this year was from Overwatch. So you had a lot of Overwatch cosplayers this year, and Diva was very popular. I don't know why so popular, but it was. And I saw a lot of drunk divas. They were very drunk. Very so.
Diva. Which one's Diva?
She's the one with the mech.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. She's like a little kid or a teenager or something.
Right. Exactly. And so most of them were not. I saw one person with a mech, but most of them no mech. Just the outside of mech. And
I saw one of the cosplayers I follow on Instagram, and unfortunately I'm blanking on her name because her Instagram handle is not like her actual name. It's whatever handle she has, but there's a video game that just came out. She's doing a cosplay, and a huge part of knowing who this character is involves the giant beast that they ride around on. It was I think it's a Nintendo release. What's the game? It looks like it's not a dragon. It looks like a giant dog with horns and a tail and griffin wings. Do you know that?
Is that Spyro?
No, not Spyro.
Is it something like Last Guardian or something like that?
The last Guardian or something like that. Yeah,
something like that.
I think that's what it is. Piper is a big fan of the game.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is.
You're
the
right.
Last
Yes,
Guardian.
The Last Guardian.
Good call,
That's right.
Matt. That's totally it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's cosplaying as the main character. So what she
awesome.
did to have this giant, thing with her, she made a little stuffed animal that she keeps in her pocket, like it's the size of a kitten, but it's very recognizable as that monster. So you immediately make the association without her having to have like this giant thing or some sort of cosplay prop, right? and I think like it would be really cool if you had like a little mech, like a little stuffed mech as a diva costume to kind of like hang around your neck or sit on your shoulder or something like that. Like it'd be a nice kind of like a practical way to bring the mech along with you.
You're right, and that context really helps a lot of times because I saw a Fresh Prince, and I knew it was Fresh Prince right away. The reason why, but if there was one little touch to the costume that completed it for me, if he hadn't have been holding a picture of Carlton in his hand, I might not have gotten it. I might have been like, "What is he trying to be right now?" But the Carlton picture, I was like, "Oh, Fresh Prince, get it,
nice.
Love it."
That's really clever.
Yeah. So he just kind of touched it off a little bit. By the way, go ahead.
The cleverness of some of the cosplayers is pretty amazing. Like one that I saw when we went was Deadpool dressed as like some princess or something. So it was like double cosplay.
Right. Oh yes, they got it is almost impossible to find just a pure cosplay at Dragon Con. Almost all of it is mixed cosplay, and Deadpool is super popular, and every pun that you can think of, they will try a variation on it. My favorite though had to be was Dreadpool. Somebody had dressed as Judge Dredd and Deadpool, and it just worked. It really worked.
I think I've seen some of that before. My friend Megan, who's been on a couple of my podcasts before, when she was at HalCon, she and her cosplay, I guess, Instagram partner, they cosplayed as Belle and Ariel, I want to say, but battle armor. So it wasn't Disney princess dresses. It was like Disney princess like corset armor and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it was cool. And Disney princesses, their traditional costumes are not really skimpy anyway, which is nice. But then they had they already had like these kind of like big ball gown dresses to kind of build off of in terms of like color palettes and textures and things, and it was really cool. I've seen some pictures. It was a really, really neat way to handle it, and a cool kind of like I don't know, like girl power moment, like to dress like a princess, but dress like, like Wonder Woman meets Belle from Beauty and the Beast, right? Like what would that character look like if they kind of got smashed together? It was really, really fun. I've always wanted to cosplay, but the perfectionist in me, I would never finish the costume. Like I'd never have it done in time to do anything like that. Like, I mean, our friend, Bill Duran, does so good, incredible stuff. I mean, I think Destiny 2 just came out. So a lot of the pictures I'm seeing online of him and Brittany are in their Destiny outfits. And when I was at Nertacular, they dressed John Funk up in one of the Destiny battle armor costumes, and they went up to the top of the mountain and they took some photos, and it's phenomenal. Like it's really, really cool.
And Bill was there this weekend. He was Old Man Logan, and so Punish Props. If you're not watching Punish Props, I mean, while you're drawing, coloring, whatever, throw up YouTube and listen to Bill go on about prop making. It is it's very cathartic. It's nice.
How he makes stuff from nothing is just incredible. Like the kind of resourcefulness and techniques that you kind of accumulate after, many years of doing this. It's really, really cool.
It is really cool. He went, like I said, as Old Man Logan, and he didn't just go as Old Man Logan. He made several props that were really advances the pictures that that people are requesting with him, because he made claws. One of them was a faulty claw, so he had like one claw that it wasn't all the way extended out, kind of like in the. Did you see the movie Logan?
Yes, yeah. Great movie.
So that actually happened in the movie, and he also made one that was separated, so he could actually he was stabbing someone through the head with the claws.
It's like those old gag arrows that are on the headband that look like it's going right through the side of your head, right?
Yeah.
I saw one with him in Brushwood, Brian Brushwood.
Right. Yeah. Yes, also a great guy. Jury, Justin Robert Young, Brushwood was there.
But all these pictures from Dragon Con was always Bill from Punish Props, and then somebody with the claws going through their head.
Right. He was on a tear.
Yeah, it never got old. It was always a fun picture. Yeah.
Okay. So let me tell you a little bit more about. I want to give a little shout out to John and Hannah, which are which is my friend's daughter and son-in-law, who were nice enough to let me go with them to do the Stan Lee experience. That was great. They do a comic called Rants Comics on Twitter. So if you go to Twitter and look up Rants_comics, you'll find that. No, it's actually just Rants Comics, one word. And I'll post that in the show notes as well. Say tackling issues like broken relationships and alcohol dependency, which I can say John has a problem with. I'm just kidding. Block Party is a comedic take on the anxieties of becoming adults, which they are both doing. They're both 20-somethings. And it was really nice having them at the con. And I even got to talk to Hannah, who's the artist of this comic, and she went over to Artist Alley, and she was, I don't know if starstruck is really the word, but she was struck by the these artists doing things, right there, sketching right there, and presenting their work, and being in a public forum. I don't think as young cartoonists and webcomic artists, we necessarily think that we'll be, we all aspire to be, some type of popularity or fame. But when you actually go to these cons and you see Artist Alley and you see them interacting with their fans, it changes your perspective a little bit. It's like, wow, I mean, they're almost rock stars, right? At these cons, Artist Alley. I know it doesn't always feel like being a rock star, but it's a little bit of, fans come up and they're doting on you and they tell you how awesome your art is. It makes you feel good. And so Hannah was asking about, how you got a table and what the experience was like. And, of course, she had a little bit of anxiety about actually creating the artwork in front of people, in front of audiences, because that's not always every cartoonist style. They may love creating at home in a isolated area, but then you get in front of a bunch of people and people want you to draw right in front of them. It's intimidating, right? Joel, you intimidated drawing in front of people?
No, actually, I've I guess this just comes from signing and sketching in books,
Right.
and doing that. But then again, like that's also me drawing Sam or Charlie or a character that I've drawn like 100 times or 1,000 times before. I haven't gotten up in front of a crowd and done any like live drawing in a long time. Actually, you know what though? Actually, I lied. I've done it recently, and it doesn't bother me, but it is a little bit weird because you get sucked into what you're doing. And if you're not like presenting, if you're not talking to anybody, you're just there drawing, and then people just start to gather.
Right.
It's a little bit weird when you realize that you've pulled a crowd, and then you feel like a monkey in a cage. It's like dance, monkey, dance, and he's just like, I'm just drawing. I'm trying to draw the elf. Please don't.
Right. Then you feel like Stan Lee on a stool.
Yeah.
With your arms.
Yeah, you just look up and go, hello.
Hello, please leave me alone. Get your picture and get gone.
Yeah. Hello, Fruit Loops. Yeah, no. It's
right. How about you, Matt?
Yeah.
As animator, do you ever get in front of people and have to draw?
Not often, but there was one time that I actually went to SIGGRAPH to help demo software for an animation software company called Toon Boom. So, yeah.
Nerve-wracking.
But I'm comfortable in front of crowds anyway. I mean, I used to do theater in high school and stuff, so I'm a bit of a ham. I can ham it up.
Well, I told Hannah, I was like, look, I mean, some of these rock stars over here, yeah, they do work while they're doing their stuff. But I'm with Joel. It's like if you just draw your character and throw a little spin on it, maybe give them a little superhero cap or shirt or something. You don't have to get outside your wheelhouse. No one's going to... So if someone comes up and asks you to draw the Hulk or something, you'd be like, well, I'll tell you what I will do. I'll draw my character hulking out. How about that? And that way you don't have to get outside your wheelhouse. Because everybody's... let's face it. As fans, you're going to have one or two types of fans who are going to approach you. You're going to have the fan who approaches you, who knows your work and loves your work and just wants your work. And then you're going to have most of the rest of the people who are there to either because they're obsessed with Spider-Man or Hulk or Wolverine or some Superman or something, and they're obsessed with that character and they want to see that character drawn in every style possible, and they'll just visit every booth they can find with a different style to kind of get
I would say
that take.
That's probably the majority of people who go to cons.
Right.
Experience. Most people aren't looking for something new. They're looking for like variants of something that they already love.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, hey, if you're out there an artist and you live on Artist Alley a lot and you have some advice for some of these young cartoonists who are looking at getting a table somewhere, feel free to shoot us an email or let us know and we'll bring you on the show and maybe talk a little further on about what to do and how to handle that and how to get to that part of your career as an artist. So that's about all I have about the con. You guys have any more questions about the con? Meh. Yes.
No,
not really.
I mean, I've kind of seen enough of stuff online to kind of get a gist of what it is. And like, I think the hard part about a con of that size is that you kind of, without actually going to it, you just kind of get like an online glazing. Like it just all kind of mishmashes together. Something I'm surprised actually with the size of Dragon Con and with all the stuff that happens there, especially with costumes. I'm surprised there's not a lot more released, like a lot more trailers or other kind of bigger things. Like, I mean, Comic-Con, I guess, is just a couple months earlier, so a lot of the big things drop at Comic-Con.
Right.
But I'm surprised that, like, say there wasn't like another Thor trailer or like something else that would be bigger, or even, is there a lot of video game stuff at Dragon Con, or is it all mostly comics and podcasting and stuff?
There's a little bit of everything. We're podcasting and we're part of what's called the fan track. So there's a lot of fan tracks that have to do with different things. It can be, sometimes it's focused entirely on a show. We have tracks that are based on science. There's tracks that are based on fantasy. There's all kinds of tracks. So we're just the podcasting is about as large as you're going to find a podcasting somewhere track, but it's pretty small when you compare it to the whole thing, Dragon Con. But yeah, there's not a big celebrity push there. So it's not like Comic-Con where you have you're really close to Hollywood.
No, you were saying earlier about Heroes Con. Now, is Heroes Con more comic focused?
Oh, yes. It's almost entirely comics focused. There's very little outside of that. You may see a little bit of cosplay, but primarily you were there to celebrate comic book artists, web comic artists, that kind of thing.
Cool. And when's that?
I want to say June, I think, of next year, sometime in June.
Oh, wow.
It's usually
okay. When you said you were planning on going, I thought you meant it was coming up.
Oh, yeah, it is coming up. Most cons, when I go to them, I try to plan about 3-6 months in advance because that stuff comes fast and it's usually expensive. Like staying at Dragon Con is extremely expensive if you stay in the host hotels. If you stay for the amount of nights we stayed, which was from Wednesday night until Monday, you're usually going to pay, $1,500, $2,000 just for the hotel, and then you got to get your tickets, which are usually about $150. So and then you feed yourself. It's a big investment. It's a big investment. Tables are not cheap either. In Artist Alley, your best bet is to hopefully get invited as a guest. And
just out of curiosity, how much is a table in Artist Alley?
I don't even know. I haven't looked recently. I really wouldn't even. I'd be afraid to even venture a guess. I haven't looked in probably 10 years, and I think then it was only like maybe a couple of hundred. But at that point in time, Artist Alley was literally underneath some steps. There was maybe like 10 artists.
A couple $100 is what I pay. Well, Canadian is what I pay to be a vendor, which is it's not Artist Alley. It's just like a regular vendor table, not a booth. But that's what I pay at HalCon. I'm looking at Heroes Con, and a regular booth at Heroes Con is $775.
Right.
I'm not seeing any Artist Alley quickly. Like I'm not seeing any prices for Artist Alley.
Right. Like I said, I think most of the big guys get invited as a guest. I don't even think they pay for a table. You know what I mean? So
and that makes sense. You got to have a reason for the fans to get in there, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they do, man, because they put it in what's called America's Mart, and that place is just off the chain.
Yeah. Here it is. Yeah, $300 Artist Alley.
Oh wow, still only $300. Wow.
Yeah, that's much. That's pretty good considering. Like, I think HalCon would get something like 10,000 people. Is like the foot traffic that might go through. It might be beyond that. Don't quote me on that. This is just kind of like anecdotal. But there would be a lot more than 10,000 people going through Heroes Con.
Oh yeah.
So like the chances. And I make my couple $100 back, no problem. But like to spend $300. Now obviously there'd be travel and stuff involved. But to be at Heroes Con, if you were drivable, to Charlotte and spend $300 on a table, I'm sure you'd make that back.
Oh, absolutely. And see, the thing about Dragon Con, I'll tell you, I've seen both Artist Alleys, and there's a lot more foot traffic at Dragon Con, and you probably have a greater book sales. But if you're wanting to do commissions, I'm telling you, Heroes Con, man, they're just handing over 20s, just like, here you go, here's another 20, 20, here's another 20.
Who's doing commissions for $20? They should stop that right now.
Right? I don't know, but they there's just rolls of people just walking around with rolls of 20s, just counting them out, making it rain on the artist. It's just
nice. I wish.
All right, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's
don't you just wish?
Right. It's
there's the next Matt the Wad, someone skipping down an Artist Alley aisle, just like tra-la, throwing money over their shoulder,
But that's
it'd be like that's the imagination, and then the reality would be like the kids coming, oh, do you think you could do this? Yeah. And then walk away.
Yeah. And then the guy hands over the money, and the artist grabs the money, and then the other person doesn't let go. Like they just kind of stand there and stare at each other. The old West, like
tumbleweeds coming through. We got this.
The eyes narrow.
Right. Oh man. All right. So you know what? We was gonna talk about some artists and stuff too, but we're already like at 5 minutes away from the mark, so we might just call this the Dragon Con episode. Boop. You know what I mean?
Yay! I say we do that, and we can always keep some artists in our pockets for next time. But I do. There was something in the notes that you had mentioned that I have to ask about, and I don't know where you found them or how we can get them on the show. But it is called the Etherington Brothers.
Yes, the Etherington Brothers.
Etherington Brothers. It is. Their stuff is fantastic.
Isn't it fun?
I say I didn't want to read while we were on the podcast, so I don't really know much other than just like looking at pictures while we've been chatting. But like, it's so energetic. Like, there's just so much life to it. It reminds me of like Liberty Meadows by Frank Cho,
very good comparison. Very good comparison.
What else is it's got, there's something about it that I'm just not quite grabbing that I've seen before somewhere, and I just can't tell you where I've seen it, but they're really solid designs. I think that's probably what I'm grasping.
They really are. You can tell they've worked a lot. They're in the UK, and I'm also saying assuming that Etherton Brothers is actual brothers and not some kind of just. And
there looks like there's two people on the back of a horse, like when they draw themselves. Like, it looks like it's two. Yeah.
Right, but what caught my eye was I was following somebody else on Twitter, and they posted this really it's kind of like a tutorial card. You know, it looks like something that you would just print out on a laminate sheet and keep in your office for reference. But they're running a series called "How to Think When You Draw," and it's like tutorial number 69, and it talks about foreground, middle ground, midground, and background, and they have a part A and a part B, and in the first half, they kind of give you these different ideas for different shapes for each of those stages. The foreground, midground, and background. And the first side is kind of like organic and natural and stuff. Then they have one that's more with buildings and ships and stuff. And it's just a great, just something just boom, just kind of opens your mind up for just a minute, you know, and just kind of flies in. Can you purchase this as a I would love if you could purchase this like as a card or something, so you could just have. I know they sell their books and stuff. They got a 600-page sketchbook, but I want just these like in cards, you know, just something to have on my desk just to pop up for reference. It's really smart.
Yeah,
Lorenzo.
No, I didn't realize that they had a sketchbook. Like, I've been, unfortunately, with Blogger and Blogspot still being what it is, I do find it hard to kind of navigate around. But yeah, if I can find an art book, I'm down, because their stuff is fantastic. Yeah, anyway, I just since you're wrapping up, I just thought it would be an excellent point to kind of wrap up on, kind of give something people to go and check out.
Absolutely, yeah. Do check out the show note links. It's the EtheringtonBrothers.blogspot.co.uk, and if you can't figure out how to spell that, you can look up "How to Think When You Draw." Lorenzo, I think, is the brother in question, if we're reading that correctly. And that's it. So yeah, I want to thank everybody at Dragon Con that I met and who was nice to me. Always a great experience heading to Dragon Con. I've had a lot of fun, and I just love it so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing Heroes Con and heading to Heroes Con this next year. That's it for me. Follow me at the Brian Dunaway. Also, my website is briandunaway.com. I look forward to getting back into comics this next year myself, making a little bit of comics. And that's all for me. How about you, Joel?
Well, right now the best thing to do would be to check out Forge Publishing on social media. We are gearing up to launch Rob Momart's new book, Ink Tank. That's happening at some point this month. We are still refining some points on the Kickstarter page, but we're getting very close. And so we've been posting some really fun images from Rob's portfolio and whatnot. So check out Forge Publishing on Instagram and Twitter, and then check out Rob Momart's on Instagram as well. He's been posting a lot of stuff where he's actually been like taking photos of him inking, which I think is really cool because it gives you a sense of scale. I think he works really big. You don't really realize it at first, but anyway, cool stuff. Check it out.
Yes, it's the print he sent us, or not print. The artwork he sent me is ginormous.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, they're huge. Yeah. Matthew Ducharme.
You can find my stuff on YouTube. Just do a search for Matthew Ducharme or Matt the Wad.
Excellent. Why on YouTube? Look for Brian Dunaway, Comics Coast to Coast playlist. I'll be posting the video to this as well as the audio in the normal places. Subscribe on iTunes and all that good stuff. If you're interested in supporting this show, head on over to patreon.com/comics C2C and show us a little bit of your lovin'. We do appreciate our current patrons and thank them for their patronage. Thank you guys so much. What else? I think that's it. Follow us on Twitter at Comics C2C. That's it. Who are we talking to next week? Do you know, Joel? Am I throwing you in the spotlight too soon?
If I could check it real fast.
Coming soon next week.
I know coming up we're talking to Kyle Marshall, but we haven't nailed down a time because he's a very busy animator on what's that show called? The Three Amigonauts. I think it's the show that he was working on. I think he was either a character designer or perhaps a story artist. I can't really remember. But I worked with him before back when I was in animation. So, but he's in California, so we're trying to sort out a time as to when we can sit down and talk to Kyle. And there was one other person that we had scheduled for September, and I believe it was Rising Sand.
Rising
with
Sand.
Ty Dunitz and Jen Lee. I'm sorry, Ty, if I'm mispronouncing your last name. But check out risingsand.glass is the comic, and FYI, it's an adult comic. There's some blood and guts and maybe some topless stuff happening, but it's really, really well drawn, and we're going to be talking to them on the 14th.
Ooh, this is pretty.
Yeah, it's really pretty. Really, really pretty stuff.
It's very warm. Okay, that's it. Hey, we'll talk to you guys next week.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
All right, are we ready?
Maybe sort of, kind of, yeah, I guess.
Okay. Roll out. Oh, why would you do that to us, Joel? Okay. And here we go. 3,